This psychological thriller from the 2010s may be the best villain-focused film I've ever seen. It tells the story of a classic and arguably iconic Batman antagonist, but does so in a way that is incredibly fascinating and somewhat disturbing. It certainly exceeded the expectations that I had for it. Hello, and welcome back to another installment of Film Friday, in which I review a new film every single week. This week we are looking at the 2019 film entitled Joker, starring Joaquin Phoenix and Robert De Niro and directed by Todd Phillips. Let's get into it. The story of the film follows a man by the name of Arthur Fleck, who is clearly struggling to make ends meet, both for himself and his sickly mother. It is also very clear that he is struggling with various mental health disorders and having a hard time fitting into normal society. A key example of this is his inability to understand why people around him laugh at certain things that he doesn't find funny, but don't laugh at the things that he does. Towards the beginning of the film, Arthur Fleck goes to visit his appointed social worker, who tells him that due to lack of government funding, the department is going to be shut down, and he will no longer be able to receive the medication he needs to keep his mental illness in check. Around the same time, Fleck is fired from his already ill-paying job as a clown, and decides to try his hand at stand-up comedy, something which he had always dreamed of pursuing. However, his routine fails, and fails so miserably that a late-night talk show host airs his performance and calls him a joker. As I mentioned at the beginning, I found this to be an incredible film in many ways, but not one to which I'm aching to return. I'm quite often, perhaps almost always, not a fan of the anti-hero narratives. While on one level I do understand the appeal, wanting to focus more on an already well-known or classic villain, or in the case of something like the TV show Breaking Bad, someone who is not a previously known character, but who presents a very interesting transformation from a normal, everyday guy into a mastermind villain. And I certainly do believe that there is a way in which these anti-hero films can be made that is quite good, but they all too often fall into the trap of turning the anti-hero character into the hero of the story, which almost subconsciously causes the audience to sympathize with and then support and then root for this villain as he continues in his morally reprehensible ways. So with that in mind, I went into this film assuming that it would be yet another morally concerning, villain-sympathizing disaster. And it was not. Now, that is not to say that there is not any element of such things in Joker. It comes with the territory for any anti-hero narrative, but one is certainly far less inclined to side with Arthur Fleck or hope that his twisted desires come to fruition. Now, to be fair, I'm not saying that the audience was not inclined to feel a great sense of sympathy and compassion for Arthur Fleck. That certainly was the case. He was a broken and severely unwell character who, for a variety of reasons, was just simply not being provided with the care that he needed. But the pity one felt for him did not totally bleed over into sympathy for his actions or support for the mission that he was pursuing. On a more technical note, the cinematography and the music were incredible, with the color palette perfectly fitting the story's mood. Joaquin Phoenix delivered an incredible performance as Arthur Fleck, and Robert De Niro fit quite well into his role as a talk show host. Overall, this film was fantastic in many ways, but overall disturbing and bleak enough that I am not rushing to return to it anytime soon. But overall, I would give it an 8.5 out of 10. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to comment your own thoughts on this film below, and don't forget to subscribe for more movie commentary and reviews.